as you can obviously see, have a lot more other verses. But I wanted to stay on these five verses for to bring to you something that has been on my heart for some time now. Uh, Psalm 30, written by David. And if you look at the top of the psalm, it tells you who wrote it and what was the occasion the psalm was written in. And the top of the psalm says a psalm, a song for the dedication of the temple of David. So we can assume the psalm was written for the dedication of a temple, just like we dedicated Samuel's house yesterday. He was dedicating the workplace of worship. And it's really, it kind of made me feel weird. Like when you dedicate someone's house, the first verse that you say is not, I will exalt you, O Lord, for you lifted me out of the depths and did not let my enemies glory. It's like a very personal set, right? He's dedicating a church, basically. And he's talking about the depths from where he was exalted. And I want to bring to your attention some of the verses that David is talking about. He talks about thankfulness. In our life, thankfulness is a very important concept, right? We are very thankful most of the year, especially when it comes to Thanksgiving. We are extra thankful for the potatoes and sweet potatoes and the turkey and all the other stuff that comes with it, right? But David here is talking about thankfulness. And in our lives, I want you to take a moment. I'm not going to ask you to tell you everything you are. But in your life, what are you thankful for? Are you thankful for your family? Are you thankful for your friends? Are you thankful for your job? Are you thankful for your finances? Are you thankful for other things? I want to bring your attention to some characters in the Bible and things they were afraid of and things they were thankful for. Because I think there's a lot to learn from people that are written about in the Bible. I think that's the purpose they were reading through. Let's look at Moses. He was afraid of being caught. This is Moses pre-burning bush, right? He was afraid to be caught. He was afraid to be incarcerated. And he was thankful that he was in the wilderness tending to somebody's sheep and from being a prince when his life started. But in that state of heat in the desert, tending sheep, he was thankful that he was not incarcerated. I want to bring to the attention of Joseph, who was thankful just to have been rescued by Potiphar from slavery. Well, he was still a slave, but his life was much better at this point. He was no longer at the bottom of the well. He was no longer being sold by his brother, and he was thankful. Thankfulness is a state that we are in. When we are in misery, we are thankful that we are in less misery. When we are happy, we are thankful because we are more happy. So thankfulness is a spectrum. And David here is telling you that he's thankful that God did not let his enemies overcome him. And that is the state that Sam starts in. Thankfulness is not the topic today, thankfully. But I wanted to bring that state of mind that David is in when he's writing the Psalm. And in verse 2, you see that he says, God, you came to me when I called for help. You healed me. I don't know if he was sick, physically, spiritually, or mentally, whatever he was, God healed him. In verse 3, he basically says, you brought me from the grave, you spared me from going down in the pit. When we read it, at least when I read it, my go-to thing was, David is saying that you saved me from going to hell. Right? That's what I understood when it says, you brought me from the grave, you spared me from going down to the pit. But something that's lost in translation here is the Jewish belief of afterlife. In the Jewish belief of afterlife, there is a place called Sheol, which is a transition place where your soul goes to wait till it enters Eden, or at least that's what the belief is. But souls that are very tormented or that are disappointing, just stay in that place. And the really bad souls go into the pit where they are separated from God. And to David, that was hell. In our lives, we live our lives where we are separated from God, but that is not hell for us. When we think of hell, we think about burning, pain. We think about all the things that will happen to us. We seldom think about the separation that comes from Him. And David is putting that into perspective that his hell is being separated from God. And this is the perspective when you come to verse 5, where it says, "For his anger lasts only for a moment, but his favor lasts a lifetime. Weeping may remain for the night, but rejoicing or joy in different versions come in the morning." This is a very important verse in our Christian life. There has been countless songs about weeping or tears lasting the night, but joy comes in the morning. There are hundreds and hundreds of choruses that we have sung most of our life. But what did this actually mean? When you read the words, verse 5, it says, "Weeping may last for the night, but joy comes in the morning." That tells you of a state where you are joyless, meaning there's a lack of joy. What does a lack of joy look like? Do you have joy in life in the church? One person does, right? Thank you, dear. So many times we confuse joy with happiness. If I ask you, are you happy? Some people are not happy because they had to wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning, right? So happiness is very situational, right? You can be happy this moment and not be happy when you walk out of church and you have to take it on your car, right? You may be very happy right now, but not be very happy when you get home and you don't have your choices food to eat. You may be very happy today, but you may not be very happy tomorrow at work where you're very tired. Happiness is very situational. This is not what David is talking about. David is talking about joy. And I want to bring to you the difference between happiness and joy. And have you introspect. This is not a judgment zone. This is your introspection and no one will know about it to see if you have joy in your life. So I looked at what are the characteristics of joyless life. And I'm going to read 7 points. And if this is something that you experience or you are this person, don't tell anybody. Just tell yourself. Okay? So, do little things bother you? Meaning, do you make mountains out of molehills with little things that bother you? Do you lose perspective of things and you don't put first things first? Do you always worry? You worry about things you cannot control, but you still worry because you can. Are you a perfectionist that condemns yourself into achieving perfection, but find yourself lost? Do you always need to be right, perfectly right, all the time? Be the only one who's right, and be rigid about your rightness. Don't trust or believe people. You don't accept anything they say, and you expect the worst from them at all times. You're suspicious, and you always think that there are ulterior motives when people talk to you. You take things personally, everything that happens to you, or things you don't like. You don't give yourself wholeheartedly or enthusiastically to anyone because they will always disappoint you. You make happiness the aim of your life instead of embracing life through all its bitterness and sweet philosophy. You take people at their best, and if they make the smallest mistake, are put down from your good graces. If any of these things are things that you have done, please don't tell me. Just remember that you may have some lack of joy in your life. I have gone through this period. I have had lack of joy in my life. And it was a really hard pill to swallow to say that you do not have joy in your life. Where does this joy come from? I want to bring your attention to Romans chapter 15, verse 13. It says, "May the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace as you trust in Him, so that you may overflow with hope by the power of the Holy Spirit." This verse seems to tell me that I need to be filled with hope, with joy, meaning I have a gas tank which runs empty, and that gas tank needs to be filled with joy. Have you ever met a sad Christian? Yes? That in itself is an oxymoron. A Christian I don't want to confuse you and say there is no sorrow, there is no grief. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a chronic state where this person is chronically sad. How does the sad Christian go to someone and say the good news? Do you understand the oxymoron there? That doesn't just compute, right? How can you be sad and grumpy like one of the little dwarfs and imagine to perform and basically exalt good news through your actions? When you walk into a room, do people see the joy that you have in your life? Or do they see the sad grumpy person? What kind of Christian are you? Are you the oxymoronic Christian? Or are you a Christian who has the joy of the Lord, who's happy and it exalts out of their life? I'm not talking about you walking into the room and smiling like a weirdo. I'm talking about the joy that comes naturally from your actions, from your thought, the way you interact with people. Do you have that joy in your life? And if you don't, listen up. What is the source of joy? John chapter 15, verse 11 says, I have told you this so that my joy may be in you and your joy may be complete. The word says, my joy. So the source of joy comes from the Lord. And if you don't have that joy, the second half of the word says, your joy is not complete. So you need two things. One, you need the joy from the Lord because that is the source. And it also makes your joy complete. And we have to understand where our joy comes from. Remember what I asked you before, what makes you happy? Your joy doesn't come from your family because the family is always fighting. Your joy don't come from your friends because friends always leave you hanging. Your joy doesn't come from work because work will replace you in a minute, right? These are worldly things that you are sending your loyalty towards instead of sending your loyalty towards God, because God is the source of joy, and only His joy can make you complete. His joy will be the only joy that will be ever present in all situations. It doesn't tell you that because of the joy of the Lord, that will ever happen. The verse actually says, weeping may remain in the night, meaning things may happen to you. And even when those things happen, you don't become a nervous wreck. You don't become someone who has no hope. You don't become someone who's very sad and can't be revived. When you have this joy, even though those situations may come in your life, joy will overtake it, and joy will sustain you, and joy will come in the morning and be the epitaph of your life, and not what the situation is. We always say the storm doesn't know the size of my God. The storm won't be the picture when you have joy in your life because you know the size of your God. And that's where joy is so important. I want to bring to your attention Psalms 28, verse 7. The Lord is my strength and my shield. My heart trusts in Him, and I am helped. My heart leaps for joy, and I will give thanks to Him in song. When you think of God and His strength and His shield, and not your own power and not your own strength, you have the joy of the Lord to overcome any situation that comes your way. This morning, church, if you are missing joy, I have some good news for you. Now, you may think, yes, I knew God at one point, but now, I'm in my Shiloh, I'm in my pit, kind of separated from God. I have a verse for you. James chapter 4, verse 8 says, draw near to God, and He will draw near to you and cleanse your hands. So all you have to do to access this joy is to ask, to come nearer, to draw nearer to God. And that will give you the access you need. At no point did you deserve God, which comes to my next point, the joy of salvation. Now, what did we deserve? I want to bring to your attention Peter chapter 2, verse 4. It talks about angels when they sin. And it says, for if God did not spare angels when they sin, but sent them to hell, putting them in chains of darkness to be held for judgment. Now, who were angels? Angels were angels were creatures created by God, and their job was worshiping. And when they sinned, God sent them to hell. If that was their criteria, where do we deserve to go? Now, especially when you come to a South Asian community, there's a lot of talk about lineage. In my family, Kuruma Mahima, right? We talk about this whole thing about where your forefathers came from, where did your fathers come from, and my grandparents, I love them. My grandfather were drunks, right? So that was my lineage. That's what I am expected to do. My grandfather was a farmer. My father didn't have more than two pairs of shirts to wear, right? And now I have to go through closets to figure out which clothes to donate. Those things don't compute, right? So if we get what we deserve, none of us would be sitting here. And spiritually, when we talk about it, God sent angels to help. I want to bring to your attention Romans chapter 5, verse 8. But God demonstrates his own love for us in that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. I don't want to read the rest of the word because we talked about all the stuff. This is what you deserve, church. We deserve to die and go to hell. And while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. He didn't say, do these things, and then I will love you. He didn't say, go to this mountain, go for pilgrimage, roll on your stomach, and 500 times, and I'll bless you, and I'll forgive you. While we were still sinners, while you were still away from God, while you wanted to do nothing with God, He died. And I bring your attention back again. Draw nearer to God today. Draw nearer to God wherever you are. Draw nearer to God in whatever situation you're in. Draw nearer to God in whatever state of spirituality you're in. And He will draw nearer to you. And He will impart His joy on you. The last thing I want to bring to your attention are the fruit of the Spirit. Right? What are the fruits of the Spirit, sir? Love. Everyone knows the words. Right? In Galatians, we talk about fruits of the Spirit. And one of the fruits of the Spirit is joy. This joy comes from the Lord. So if you have fruits of the Spirit, joy will be one of them. And fruit of the Spirit, the more you have a direct correlation to how close you are to God and how much God directs your life and not the other way around. Right? We love to come to church on Sunday and direct God to tell God what we need and when we need it and how we need it. But if we let the Holy Spirit and God direct our lives, the fruit of the Spirit will keep coming on. I want to go on and not hold up time and give you some practical challenges for bringing this joy. It's great for us to say, oh, do this, Bible says this, do this, Bible says that. But then we go out of the church and next Sunday we come back in the same place. So where do you practice these fruits of the Spirit? Do you practice this fruit of the Spirit with your families? When your families are getting on your nerves, right? They are really pushing you. Do you practice the spirit of love? Do you practice the spirit of patience? Practice when your loved ones are getting on your nerves? Do you practice this at work? Do you practice this in your coming and going? I caught myself yesterday. I went to CVS yesterday, and outside there were a couple with a very small child. They looked like they had come from South America, and they were begging for money. And the first thing that came into my mind was, oh, right? That's very Christian of me, right? Because the next moment it caught my heart. These are the people Jesus would ask you to go look after, right? So where do you practice these fruits of the Spirit? The fruits of the Spirit are not to be practiced in church. They are to be practiced outside in the world, among people we live with. I'm not trying to get a political agenda across, but just asking you to look into your heart and to see where this joy is. Today, church, weeping may come in the night. Weeping talks about that state of mind, state of your heart, where all else have failed. When you come to a problem, most people don't say, oh, you have a problem? Let me start crying. That's generally not the response people have. People try everything else. Weeping kind of designates that state where you have tried everything else and everything has failed. When you find yourself in that state where everything else has failed and you have no joy in your life, draw nearer to the Lord. He died for you when we were still sinners. He loves you. His hands have marks that prove it. His chest has marks that prove it. His feet have marks that prove it. There are still signs and symbols in Israel still talking about the love of God that He wants to shower on you. Today, church, ask with weeping for His joy to come into your life. And may this joy correct your life. May He do it so.